The forest was still, save for the whisper of a cold wind weaving through the pines. The fading light cast long shadows over the clearing where a sickly Mustang horse stood tethered to a solitary tree. Her name was Ember, though there was little of the fire left that had once defined her. She swayed slightly on her weakened legs, her once glossy coat now dull and patched with dirt. Her breathing was shallow, each exhale visible in the growing chill of dusk. Roy, a rancher hardened by years of struggle, had led her here. To him, Ember was no longer a horse but a burden, ill, aging, and unfit for work. Her treatment had been costly, and the ranch barely scraped by as it was. Letting nature take its course seemed the only option. Wolves roamed these woods, their howls a grim choir that echoed at night. "It's not personal," Roy murmured as he tightened the knot around the tree. His voice cracked slightly, but he turned away without looking back. As night fell, the forest came alive with its eerie symphony. Ember lifted her head weakly, her ears flicking toward distant rustling in the underbrush. She was prey, and she knew it. The primal fear that pulsed through her veins was dulled only by exhaustion. The first wolf appeared as a shadow among shadows, its glowing eyes fixed on her. More followed, forming a loose ring around the clearing, their movements cautious but predatory. Then, a sound cut through the night, not the snarl of wolves, but the sharp, commanding cry of a horse. Out of the darkness emerged a herd of wild mustangs, their leader a massive black stallion whose coat gleamed under the moonlight. He moved with purpose, his hooves striking the ground like thunder. The wolves hesitated, sensing the shift in power. The stallion approached Ember, his nostrils flaring as he assessed her condition. He let out a low whinny, and the other mustangs closed in, forming a protective wall around the mare. The wolves growled, testing the resolve of the newcomers. But the stallion reared, his powerful hooves slashing the air, a warning that left no room for doubt. When the first wolf lunged, the stallion struck with precision, his hooves connecting with a sickening crack. The rest of the herd joined the fight, their kicks and charges driving the predators back into the shadows. The standoff lasted until dawn, the wolves retreating one by one, their hunger no match for the unyielding unity of the mustangs. With the danger gone, the stallion turned his attention back to Ember. He bit and tugged at the rope binding her to the tree, his determination unrelenting. Finally, the knot gave way. Ember stumbled forward, nearly collapsing, but the stallion caught her with his broad shoulder. He nudged her gently, encouraging her to move. The other mustangs fell in around them, forming a living barrier as they guided her into the safety of the forest. Days passed, and Ember grew stronger. The wild herd accepted her as one of their own, teaching her to navigate the rugged terrain and forage for food. The stallion, ever watchful, stayed close, his presence a constant reassurance. Back at the ranch, Roy couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at him. He returned to the clearing, expecting to find nothing but remnants of what had been. Instead, he found the rope torn and hoofprints scattered in every direction. Confusion turned to disbelief when he heard rumors of a wild herd spotted near the mountains, led by a striking black stallion and a mare with an unmistakable blaze on her forehead. One crisp morning, as Roy worked in his fields, a movement on the ridge caught his eye. He turned and froze. It was Ember. Her coat gleamed in the sunlight, her posture proud and strong. Beside her stood the black stallion, his gaze piercing and unyielding. For a moment, they stood there, the wind carrying the silence between them. Roy took a step forward, but Ember didn't move. She seemed to look right through him, her expression calm, almost forgiving. With a soft nudge from the stallion, she turned and galloped away, her mane streaming like fire against the sky. Roy stood there long after they had vanished, a strange mix of awe and regret settling in his chest. He realized that Ember hadn't just survived, she had thrived. She was no longer the sick horse he had tied to a tree, waiting for an end. She was free, part of something greater, her spirit unbroken. And in that moment, Roy understood that some endings are beginnings in disguise, and some lives are meant to be wild and untamed.
Imagine the countless untold tales of bravery and loyalty between humans and animals. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thrilling and heartfelt stories that remind us of the extraordinary power of trust and courage.